Kepler's second law of planetary motion. This law is called as the law of equal area. And the law is the line joining the planet and the sun sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. Now here we have shown a planet and the orbit of the planet is an ellipse and it is having sun at one of its foci. So according to the Kepler's first law, the orbit of a planet is an ellipse with sun at one of its foci. This is what is seen over here. So here we have this planet. Let us assume that the planet is at position A. We draw a line joining the sun and the planet. Suppose this planet is taking a period of 30 days to reach this point B. Again we join point B with sun and we draw a line like this so that we get an area. So this area is SBA. So this is the area that the planet has covered in 30 days. Now we consider a position C of the planet on the ellipse. Again, this planet is taking a period of 30 days to reach point D. Again, it sweeps out a certain area. Again, we have shown this CSD. So this is the area that the planet has covered or it has swept out again in 30 days. Let us consider one more point E where the planet has reached, and again it is taking a time of 30 days to reach this point F. And again it has swept out a certain area, that is ESF. Now according to the Kepler's second law, all these areas are equal. Though when you see these areas, that is 1, 2 and 3 may appear to be different, but they are actually all the same. They have covered all these areas 1, 2 and 3 in a period of 30 days. It has taken the planet 30 days to move from point A to B. It has taken 30 days to move from point C to D. And again it has taken 30 days for the planet to move from E to F. So the time interval is same, that is 30 days. And so the line joining the planet and the sun sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. Now, why do we find this? Why is it happening that the planets are sweeping out equal areas in equal intervals of time? So for this, we need to understand that the ellipse has got two focuses, but none of them is in the center. So what we find in an ellipse is that sun is not at the center of the elliptical orbit because none of the focuses of the ellipse is in the center, and sun is at one of its foci. So there will be places where the planet will be closer to the sun, like it is here. Right now we can see that the planet is closest to the sun. But when the planet will travel and reach this point here, it will be farthest from the sun. So since sun is not at the center of an elliptical orbit, the planet will move closer at times, and at times it will be farthest from the sun. So the place where the planet is closest to the sun is called as perihelion. Whereas when the planet is farthest from the sun, that is called as epihelion. So the place where the planet is closest to the sun is called perihelion, and the place when the planet is farthest from the sun is called as epihelion. So when the planet is in the perihelion area, it experiences maximum gravitational pull from the sun. As a result, the speed of the planet increases. So at perihelion, we will find that the velocity of the planet will be maximum. So V max we have written, that is the velocity of the planet will be maximum when it is closest to the sun, because it will experience maximum gravitational pull from the sun. But when the planet reaches a point where it is farthest from the sun, the gravitational pull will be minimum, and hence we find that the velocity of the planet will be minimum. So at epihelion, the velocity of the planet will be minimum. We have written it as V minimum. That is, when the planet is farthest from the sun, it will move very, very slowly. So this is what is the reason that we find that this planet will sweep out equal areas in equal intervals of time. So this is Kepler's second law of planetary motion of equal areas. That is, the line joining the planet and the sun sweeps equal areas in equal intervals of time. Coming to Kepler's third law of planetary motion, this law is called as the law of time. The law is the square of the period of revolution of the planet around the sun is directly proportional to the cube of mean distance of the planet from the sun. Now, by period of revolution of the planet around the sun, we mean the time the planet is taking to complete one revolution around the sun. I will repeat, period of revolution of the planet around the sun. Here by period of revolution we mean the time the planet is going to take to complete one revolution around the sun. For example, if we take Earth as the planet, our Earth takes 365 days to complete one revolution around the sun. So that will be called as period of revolution. So here we are taking the square of the period of revolution of the planet around the sun, and it is directly proportional to the cube of mean distance of the planet from the sun. So if we are going to consider that r is the average distance of the planet from the sun and t is the period of revolution, then t square, period of revolution square we have to take, is directly proportional to r cube. R stands for the average distance of the planet from the sun. So if we want to remove the sign of proportionality, then we need to introduce a constant. So we will have t square upon r cube is equal to a constant that is called as k, that is the Kepler's constant. Kepler obtained these laws simply from the study of the positions of the planets obtained by regular observations. He had no explanation as to why planets obey these laws. So these are the three laws of Kepler for planetary motion. And now we will see how these laws helped Newton to formulate his theory of gravitation.